In the world of luxury, there are names that open doors, and then there is one name that makes people whisper Ewa. She was not just a wedding planner, she was the wedding planner, the queen of unforgettable ceremonies, the genius behind the most exotic and elite nuptials in Nigeria and beyond. From Banana Island to Dubai, from Calabar to Cape Town, her brand was everywhere, yet she herself remained invisible. Ewa was said to be so exclusive that she never received jobs unless the payment was at least 50 million naira upfront. Her events were for billionaires, politicians, and royalty only. No one else could afford her, and frankly, no one else deserved her. Also, people said her weddings were like nothing the world had seen. Social media users were obsessed with her style, her use of red and black cloth draped across ivory tents, even calabashes replacing fine china, and the way she mixed traditional shrines into modern decor. She once had a bride walk down the aisle barefoot on a path of kola nuts, while a masked dancer performed beside her. Another time, guests were served palm wines in miniature clay pots shaped like ancient river spirits, and everyone called it a bold cultural reinvention. But only a few noticed the strangeness, the unsettling details hidden behind the lavish beauty. The families of the bride and the groom were never served the food or drink offered to other guests, and those who dared question the customs were either ignored or silenced by Ewa's team, who were always polite yet oddly cold. Still, the world adored her. Her name trended on TikTok. Her weddings were featured in elite magazines. And yet, not a single verified photo of Ewa existed online. Even the media had tried. She never did interviews. She never spoke at industry events. Some said she only appeared at weddings during midnight rehearsals. Others believed she sent a double in her place. But one thing was sure, those who had seen her swore she was the most beautiful woman alive. As Ibukun scrolled through the wedding photos which Ewa had planned online, she was curious, a sharp mind with a curious heart. She was engaged to Tunde, the son of a wealthy oil tycoon. She was excited to plan their wedding until the family matriarch, Folake, her fiance's mother, announced one day over dinner, I've already spoken to Ewa. She will plan the wedding. Ibukun blinked. Ewa? The Ewa? Of course. Folake smiled proudly. Do you think my only son's wedding should be left in the hands of common people? She planned the governor's daughter's wedding. I want the best. Ibuko smiled politely, but something inside her twisted. She had seen Ewa's wedding online. They were beautiful, no doubt, but there was something strange about them, something off. That night, she went down a rabbit hole. She watched every wedding video, read every comment, studied the pictures. Why were the brides always so calm, almost detached? Why did the decorations feel more like rituals than celebrations? 3 hours in, she clicked on an old Facebook post 6 years old, showing a lavish wedding planned by Ewa. As she scrolled through the flood of praise, one comment caught her eyes. I've seen this before. She's not what you think. Beware the OGBANJE, the message read. Yibukun stared at the words, a pulse quickening. She clicked on the commenter's name. It was a man. His profile was mostly empty, with only a few scattered posts over the years. But the message stayed with her. She messaged him, and he didn't respond right away. Days passed, then suddenly a reply. If you really want to know who she is, meet me in person. Some things are not meant to be typed. Ibukun was on edge about this meeting until the very day she was to meet the man. But she made up her mind. What harm could he really do? She was just meeting him, and not in private. They met in a small cafe tucked in a quiet corner of Surulere. As the man sat down in front of her, he introduced himself as Moses. He handed her something wrapped in brown paper. She opened it slowly. It was a charcoal sketch, surprisingly detailed. It was a woman. She was beautiful, delicate features, long neck, and a regal posture. But there was something weird. Her eyes were too deep, and her smile, as if she knew everything in the world. Ibuka stared at it. This is her, Moses said, his voice low. Her name was Ewa, or at least that's what my father called her. Then he told her a story. As a boy in a village in Kogi, he lived with his widowed father, a hunter. One day, his father came home with a woman slung over his back, beautiful, unconscious, found near the forest shrine. She didn't know her name, so he called her Ewa. She was everything a man could want, Moses said. But she was strange. She never used our plastic plates. She served every meal in calabashes, even water. She said it was more natural. And she never let us eat together. I thought it was tradition, maybe respect. But over time, I saw that my father always looked tired after meals, and she looked brighter. Then came the incident with kuli kuli. One market day, I brought some kuli kuli home, just a few groundnut cakes. She screamed. Her eyes changed. She threw things, shaking. My father slapped me for upsetting her and banned kuli kuli from our home forever. Soon after, Moses noticed his father's aged rapidly. His skin sagged, his hair grayed, his steps slowed. Within a year, he died in his sleep. And the morning they buried him, Ewa disappeared. I thought she was a spirit. I tried to forget until 20 years later. 20 years later, Moses was at a party in Lagos. He saw a woman walk past in red and black. His heart nearly stopped. She looked exactly the same, not older, not younger. He thought she must have been Ewa's daughter. But then he saw the mole just behind her left shoulder, the very same place. That's when I knew, he said. I've tried to warn people. I have left comments on almost all our videos. They've been deleted or vanished, but no one listened. She's not a woman, he whispered. She's something else, something that eats, not flesh, but life. And she hides in beauty, wealth, and rituals. That's how she stays close. He gestured to the drawing. If you see her, you run. Ibuku nodded slowly, tucking the sketch into her bag. But she wasn't running. She had to see it for herself. She thanked Moses for what he had said to her. He got up in a hurry, as if he was being chased, and left the cafe. As Ibukun watched the old man scurry away from the cafe, her mind was racing with questions. The story Moses told wasn't just strange, it was terrifying, but it made too much sense. The unusual food practices, the ageless beauty, the obsession with calabashes, the airy energy surrounding her weddings. Ibukun left the cafe with shaking hands and a whirlwind of thought. Ibukun's mother-in-law, Folake, was glowing with excitement. Her daughter-in-law was finally excited to be a part of the wedding process. When she had come to her to introduce her to Ewa, her excitement knew no bounds. You don't understand, Ibukun. This woman is not just a wedding planner. She is a miracle worker. Ewa has handled weddings for governors' children, oil magnates, even that media tycoon from Port Harcourt. You say she's divine. Ibukun smiled faintly. She wasn't going to meet Ewa to be impressed. She was going to see if the woman from Moses' Shako drawing, the one with the ageless beauty and strange rituals, was real. They arrived at a sleek, black-walled building in Victoria Island. There was no loud signage, just a polished brass plaque that read, Ewa, Wedding Curation and Spiritual Experience. A young man in white robes opened the door. He didn't speak, only bowed slightly and gestured them in. The reception room was nothing like Ibukun expected. The air smelled of sandalwood and something fermented like soaked herbs. The walls were a deep charcoal color with subtle red stick patterns that looked almost like markings or sigils if you stared too long. A sculpture of a goddess, Oya, Ibukun guessed, stood in the corner, holding a bowl filled with dried petals. Despite the modern furniture and cool hair, the place felt like a shrine disguised as a business. She likes to mix culture with couture, Madame Folake whispered with a proud smile. Very Afro-futurist. A graceful assistant in red and black emerged and offered them both hibiscus water in small black clay cups. Ibukun politely declined. After a few minutes, a door to the side opened, and in walked Ewa. Ibukun forgot how to breathe. It was her, the woman from the sketch, the same high cheekbones, the full lips, the long neck. Her skin looked untouched by time. Her voice, when she spoke, was low and deliberate, each word placed like a jewel. Ah, Madame Folake, she said, smiling warmly. So wonderful to see you again. My dear Ewa, Folake stood and gave her a half hug. I told my son, only you can undo this wedding. My daughter-in-law must have the best. Ewa turned to Ibukun, and for a moment their eyes locked. Ibukun smiled, studying her expression. And this must be the beautiful bride. Yes, ma, Ibukun said softly. Ewa's eyes lingered on her. Then she smiled again. You have the face of someone whose wedding will echo through generations. She gestured for them to sit and began to explain her packages. She spoke of ancestral themes, spiritual harmony, and invoking symbolic elements in ceremonies. She pulled out a portfolio photo of previous weddings, towering sculptures, centerpieces shaped like gods, guests eating from calabashes, brides wearing red coral beads in intricate patterns. Ibukun flipped through them slowly, a heart tightening. Everything Moses had said might be true. You seem quiet, dear, Ewa said, turning to her. Are you not a fan of red and black? Ibukun smiled, swallowing. I think I'm just taking it all in. Ewa laughed. It is a lot, I know, but weddings aren't just events, they're threshold, and I specialize in crafting what lies beyond the threshold. Ibukun forced another smile. They talked for a few more minutes, discussed tentative dates, and agreed to have a follow-up consultation. Ewa stood and shook Ibukun's hands as they left. Her palm was ice cold. As the door closed behind them and they stepped into the sunlight, Folake beamed. You see? What did I tell you? That woman is blessed. Ibukun nodded slowly, her hands tingling from the handshake. There was no longer any doubt. The woman from the forest, the one Moses' father found, the same face, the same dark eye that seemed to look through your skin. Ewa was real, and she was not what she seemed. She wondered why anyone else couldn't see that. That night, she told her fiancé Sunday. At first, he laughed. Babe, it's just folk tales. You know how old men love to tell scary stories. Her voice trembled as she repeated Moses' story word for word. As she spoke, she watched Tunde's amusement fade into concern. And you're telling me this same woman, this Ewa, is planning our wedding? His brow furrowed. Yes, and I don't want her anywhere it. He nodded slowly. Even if none of it is true, it is better to be safe than sorry. I'll talk to my mother. They decided to tell Folake the next morning. You what? Folake's voice thundered through the living room. I said we've decided not to use Ewa, Tunde repeated calmly. We found someone else we both prefer. You found. She stood up, eyes wide with disbelief. Do you know what I went through to book that woman? Do you know how many people have waited years just to get her attention? And now you say you want to cancel? Ibukun opened her mouth to speak, but the older woman raised a hand. This is your influence, she said coldly, turning to her. Sunday never doubted my judgment until you came into the picture. What do you have against her? She doesn't feel right, Ibokun said carefully. There's something about her. Our weddings are always strange. All those calabashes, all those deity statues, the red and the black. Nobody knows anything real about her. Doesn't that bother you? Folake scoffed. You children of this generation, always thinking everything you don't understand is evil. It's called innovation. Ewa is an artist. That's why the elites pay her 50 million or more, because she creates wedding the world never forgets. Tunde stood up. Mom, we've made our decision. Please respect it. There was a long pause. Then Folake sat down, shaking her head. You are both making a mistake, she said finally, and don't expect me to be involved in helping plan anything else. If you throw away the best, you are on your own. Days passed, and Ibukun and Tunde found another planner, a woman who understood their desire for a simple, elegant wedding without fanfare or ritual drama. The new plans were underway, but Ewa was not someone who went unnoticed. 7 days passed before Ibukun received a message. Let's meet. We need to talk. Ewa. It was 5 p.m. when she walked into a quiet restaurant in Lekki. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow across the tiled floor. She sat at a table by the window. Ewa arrived precisely at 5:15. She was breathtakingly beautiful. This she had to give her. Her eyes held a calm that felt practiced, too calm. Good evening, Ibukun, she said, her voice like honey. Evening. Ewa smiled. I heard you cancelled. I was disappointed. I think we could have done something unforgettable. I'm sure, Ibukun replied coolly, but I have made my decision. Ewa's eyes narrowed slightly. It's unfortunate. Your mother-in-law was thrilled. You would have looked like a goddess. I'm not interested in being a goddess at a funeral, Ibukun said sharply. The smile dropped. Ewa leaned forward. Be careful where you get your stories from. Ibukun didn't flinch. She reached into her handbag and pulled out a small piece of kulikuli wrapped in brown paper. She placed it quietly on the table. The effect was immediate. Ewa's nostrils flared, her eyes watered, her perfect skin began to twitch. She looked down at her arms, red lines forming, as if something inside her was scratching its way out. She gasped, then stood up abruptly, nearly knocking over a chair. You, she started, but her voice cracked into something inhuman, something hissing. She turned and ran out of the restaurant, her heels clicking violently against the tiles. Everyone in the restaurant froze. No one understood what they just witnessed. But Ibukun sat there, calm, the kulikuli still untouched in front of her. Ewa was never seen again in Lagos. Her offices were shut down within the week. Clients couldn't reach her. Her phone lines died. Our elite staff disappeared like mist. Even our old wedding online started to vanish. Videos were taken down, accounts deactivated, as though she had never existed. But those who knew remembered. Ibukun and Tade got married quietly in Ibadan, surrounded by family, love, and laughter. No red and black, no calabashes, no statues of forgotten gods. Months passed, and then a whisper began to spread in Abuja. Have you heard about the new planner? She's changing the game. They are otherworldly. One bride claimed the woman behind the event had skin that shimmered under moonlight. Another said the planner only accepted cash in envelopes. A third swore the woman never blinked the entire time they spoke. But everyone agreed on one thing. Her name was Ewa. And so the legend continued. Maybe she was a woman cursed to feed on human vitality. Maybe she was a spirit sent from the other side. Or maybe she was something far older, something ancient and angry. One thing is for certain, if you ever receive a mysterious message from a wedding planner named Ewa, think twice before saying yes. If you attend a wedding where the decorations are red and black, where food is served in calabashes and drinks are poured from carved wooden figure. Do not eat, do not drink, and above all, beware the OGBANJE, Ewa.